how much does it currently cost to maintain Firebender each month? So
that alone will cost like $20,000 a month, right?
wow.
To run a cluster of 8 H100s. And I work like maybe like 13 hours, something like that, 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. Like every company is a disaster, right? Like we're all trying to just make something work. And it's very normal. And we obviously got really fortunate that we got into YC. You know, $500,000 is a lot of money. Like, do you feel like you're losing your programming skills?
That's
or like,
actually a good point of view. And
so we sold a phone. What we did is like
to a grandma.
Yeah, I don't know if a grandma would want like an AI phone.
My guest in this podcast episode is Kevin Tang. He is one of the founders of a Firebender, which is a code assistant plugin for Android Studio. He is someone who's stepped into the world of entrepreneurship and a startup at an early age. Kevin, I know it's still early at your place. There is a huge difference between our time zones. And with that in mind, thank you for joining. Why don't you tell our viewers a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, also thanks for having me. I'm super excited to do this. I know this is like your second podcast as well, so this will be fun. Yeah, I guess so. A little bit about myself, like, you know, my name is Kevin. I'm one of the co-founders of Firebender, a coding agent for Android engineers. I originally, before that, I was a software engineer at 2 Sigma for a couple years. So this was like, you know, 2020 to 2022. So when the pandemic started around that time. So it also, if any of you don't know what 2 Sigma is, it's like this, it's this hedge fund that's based in New York. It's sort of like maybe somewhat infamous a little bit. I think also before that, I graduated from Texas A&M University. My entire life, I grew up in Texas, actually. I was born in Dallas, but yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. I think also like maybe other things, like I really love building. I'm very much an engineer.
You're a developer, engineer.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
A calling of mine.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned that you're currently working full time on a Firebender, I assume, so full time. Yep. And why the name Firebender? So the first time I've heard about it, I thought it has something to do with the Firebase in general.
Yeah. I think it's funny because I noticed, like, so when I went to DroidCon in London, a lot of people didn't really know what they were like, Firebender, that's a weird name. It is a very weird name. Like it does not sound like an actual company name. And a lot of friends that I remember, so Aman's my co-founder, we were trying to like brainstorm a company name like a year ago. And so we were kind of just like sitting in our living room, just saying like, you know, what, like, I don't know. So I was just thinking like maybe Firebender. What do you think about that? And, I think
it's
at first, like,
name actually.
Well,
yeah,
you know,
it sounds like from an anime, sort of.
Yes, yeah. So, and I'll get to that. I think that the funny thing though about it is that when we told other people like our company name was Firebender, a lot of our friends and colleagues thought it was like not a serious company. Like the company was kind of a joke. Like it's like, why would you name your company Firebender? That doesn't make any sense. So the reason why we named it though is in big part because like I'm a massive fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's such a good show, and I really like a lot of the characters. One of the characters his name is Zuko, and you know he's a firebender. So like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you have like these 4 elements, and a lot of the a lot of the lore around it is that each different kind of person can like bend a different element, and one of the elements is fire. And like the firebending group, like that culture is going through like an interesting change through that show, where they're as a group trying to define who they are and like what it means to bend fire. And like I guess now the way I think about it too, like for our company, I don't know, this might seem really odd, but like it also kind of seems in a sense like with AI, right? The advent of AI, you know, we've as engineers, we've been given kind of like these interesting like new superpower, right? Like how as humans are we supposed to use AI correctly and in the right way? And what does that mean? And it reminds me a lot about like firebending. Like firebending is extremely powerful, but also like very dangerous in some ways, right? Very destructive. So
That's a good
I think,
analogy, yeah.
yeah, I think it's very relevant. Anyways, also we got the .com domains. That was another reason. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah.
So why don't you tell us a bit more about your technical skills?
Yeah. So my background, I programmed a lot in Clojure, actually, which I don't know if you know that language, or many people might not have heard of Clojure. It's a functional programming language. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know. Is it popular, like in your
I don't
experience? Have
know.
you?
I think I've never heard about it, or maybe I've had, but
Yeah,
rarely, I
it's
think.
okay. Yeah, so it's like a functional programming language that can run on the JVM, like, and can
Uh-huh.
also, like, you can call like Java operations from it, and they're interpretable like both ways. And so this was part of my first job at Two Sigma. So I was programming a lot in Clojure, and I was using IntelliJ. What I was building there, we kind of like, do you know what like Cloud Functions is, or like AWS Lambda? Okay, yeah. So like, you know how like in Firebase functions, like you can define like some function, right, in JavaScript or whatever, and call that
Okay.
function as a remote call from your front end. One thing that we had done internally within Two Sigma is like, we like my team, we had built basically an internal version of Firebase functions, but for the thousands of engineers at the company. And so anyone at Two Sigma could, like, write a trading service or any kind of service or function, and then one click deploy to our
Mm-hmm.
platform. And so to give you a sense of the scale as well, like, I think at its peak, we'd manage like tens of thousands of CPUs, petabytes of RAM, and
Wow,
so yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
that's
Like,
huge.
as a first job, that like opened my eyes to a lot of different things, like not only to functional programming and Java and the JVM, but also like managing, like, massive amounts of compute and orchestrating it properly, all on Kubernetes as well, like for our users. And like, yeah, anyways, so that was a ton of fun.
When did you actually start working on Firebender? And at that time, did you work on Firebender as a part-time job, or did you fully
Yeah.
dedicated yourself to that project of yours?
I think so. Our experience at Firebender, especially mine, has been like an interesting journey. So I quit my job in 2022, and this was after 2 years of working as
Mm-hmm.
like a regular software engineer. So I've been working on Firebender like as a company, like trying to do a startup for like 3 years, right, at this point. And for Firebender itself, like we started working on that idea like maybe like almost a year ago now. So for 2 years, I was working on separate stuff, and like nothing was working.
Oh,
Like
really?
yeah, like all of my ideas, like I was just trying a bunch of different things. And I mean, that's kind of like part of the process, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a really huge time span, 2 years. So did you spend that
Yeah.
time all alone, or you had some kind of a help from other people?
Yeah, so that whole period, so for 3 years, that was all full time. When I quit my job, I had two co-founders, and then like I since separated with those co-founders very early on. And
Mm-hmm.
then afterwards, that's like maybe 6 months in or almost a year in, that's when I met Aman, my now co-founder, which is great. And part of the reason there is that like he was doing his own startup. So like he separately was like going off trying to build his own company. And we had connected. We actually knew each other from high school, which is kind of crazy. But like, yeah. But we had like met up and just were like venting about our experience, like trying to build a company and how difficult it was, like very surprisingly, very hard to build something. And we actually didn't even think about becoming co-founders like early on.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't cross our mind. We were just like, for many months, we were like complaining about like, we had separate co-founders, and like, we were working on separate ideas, and we're just like passing notes to each other. And then eventually, like, it hit us where we were like, wait, our co-founders like right now aren't very serious. Like they're all part-time and still like working at Google or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just like, why? Why don't we just start a company together? Like we could just do that. Like that makes so much more sense. And yeah, and so that kind of that decision alone probably increased the outcome. Like in general, like I'm super thankful that I got to meet Aman. He is he's an amazing engineer, definitely like one of the best co-founders you could ask for. It was 9 day, and like after we started working together, we actually started making a lot of progress. Yeah.
So in those first 2 years, you have worked with your colleague for how long? I mean, did you start immediately or after some time, like after a year ago?
Like, are you asking if we started working full time immediately together, or
full time?
Because he had left his job as well. So he left his job in early 2023, and so like we were really lucky because the timelines kind of also aligned. Like we were both like not working a job. I was trying all these different ideas. He was like on his own, like trying different ideas. Also, he was also playing a lot of games as well. And yeah. And,
I know
and so
that feeling. It's
yeah.
I myself play some games between development to relax my mind.
Yeah, no.
But it's also time consuming if you don't know when to stop.
Yeah, for sure.
I know.
For sure. I'm actually kind of curious, like, what kind of games do you play? Like, are you like a competitive gamer or like more casual leisure?
I'm not that kind of competitive, but I had played Apex Legends with my friends, you know. So we had a squad, and just on the evenings we come around and for half an hour or an hour playing a game. Not too much, but it's still relaxing for me personally.
No, for sure. Yeah, I feel like gaming is like one of those things where, like, especially when you play with friends, like when you have a squad, it's super fun. Yeah, it's so fun.
Alone is a whole nother story. I mean, playing alone is boring, but having someone, it's always a better idea. It's more dynamic and funny at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, I don't know, maybe this isn't a good thing, but I think also like part of it is like while you play with friends, half the time we're like trolling each other. Like we're just like, dicking around, just like messing with each other. But then like half the time it gets serious, we're trying to work together and like, make something happen.
So,
but yeah.
How many days or how many hours per day do you actually work on your current project?
Yeah, so I think, I think startups can be kind of glamorized, like a lot, like quite a bit. For me, I work a lot. I work like maybe like 13 hours, something like that, 13 hours a day, 6 days a week at least. Especially when like it's so early. Like it's just, when it was me and my co-founder, we had to do everything. So like you're doing sales, right? And like you're jumping on calls, like trying to convince people to buy your product. You're also building the product as well, like you're engineering, right? Also, a lot of times, like, especially like when you're trying to figure out like what to do next, like what is the next thing to build on top of your current product? Like, is this working? You're building analytics, you are managing customer support, managing customer relations. And
there is a lot of work.
Yes,
From development to managing the infrastructure to marketing. I mean, everything is taking a lot of time. And while we are at it, so do you have some kind of a dedicated marketing team, or do you actually invest in marketing, or it's just spreading by the good word around the internet?
Yeah, so this is like, okay, this is one of those things where, so I don't have a marketing team. It is like, I guess it's just me. Like, I'm not a great marketer.
$0.
Yeah, it's $0. It's just me, like,
that's the best economy.
Like trying to post, and like it's hard because like I'm not a marketer by trade, right? Like I just know how to program. Like that is the thing that I enjoy the most. And so like I'm not like it's definitely building a muscle, like trying to get your stuff out there, like after you build something, like also making sure that you go the next mile, like the extra step where you send it to users or potential people to like take a look. Like that's something that was really hard to understand and learn, and like it took me a long time. So we don't spend any money on marketing for now. I think also for an engineering tool, in my perspective, like I don't really like seeing engineering ads. Like I don't know about you. Like do you like looking at like it? Yeah, like
they must be funny if I wish to buy something out of them. But
No, for sure.
It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hard. That part, I mean, even a development is hard, but still comparing to marketing, that's a whole other story. And also, how many employees you currently have at
Yeah.
Firebender?
So this might be, I don't know. I don't know if this is a lot. Like, so there's only three people. So it's literally
Oh,
just,
wow.
it's me. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah. So it's me, my co-founder Mon, and our founding engineer, my younger brother Zach, who's also like
wow.
insanely helpful. But yeah, I don't know. Like, did you think that our company was larger when you first saw it, or when I first reached out?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
kind of
mean,
curious. Yeah.
I've checked your website. I've already analyzed and seen your actual tool, the plugin for Android Studio. I have tested it out. And, when I first saw it, I thought this is probably maintained by around, at least 10 developers or
Yeah.
a similar number. But,
Yeah.
obviously the AI is a good thing when it comes to reducing those employees,
I
the number
you
of
know
employees.
I do think it's interesting how now like you can do a lot more with like just a handful of people, like even more so now. And like think I think just like maybe for your viewers or anyone like listening, for anyone who's like thinking about starting a company or starting a startup, like with kind of the coding tools available like at this very moment, like the time to make a landing page or a website or even a product is it is significantly decreased. Like it should not take as long anymore to make a website or to make a startup or make an MVP. And it's kind of an amazing time because what that means is like if you're a risk taker or anyone who's like more risk averse or like willing to throw themselves or put themselves out there and do something full
Hmm.
time, like you're basically given a superpower, right? And like this has not existed at any time in history, which is kind of insane. Like it's very crazy to think about. But yeah, sorry, I don't know. Yeah, yeah,
No, no, I mean, you're totally right. Having an AI by your side, it's like having one or two or multiple different senior developers who are helping you achieve whatever you need. And
yeah.
it's amazing what you can do with it. So, do you guys use Firebender at work? I mean,
Yeah.
are any mobile engineers among you, among three of you?
So there's two parts to this. Yes, absolutely. We use Firebender at work. Like this, in fact, Firebender builds like Firebender. Like Firebender is probably written like maybe 95% of code for Firebender at this point. I can't remember the last time there may be sometimes where I'll manually type out code, but that
Hmm.
happens like like way less, like much more infrequently now than me asking Firebender to do a certain thing or me directing like a series of like Firebender agents, right? Or a series of coding agents to
So
actually like
when
work.
you
Yeah.
launch a project, let's say that you are building a
Yeah.
side project, some kind of a mobile app, and do you just open up the Firebender and type the prompt,
Yeah.
or you still do some kind of a setup manually by yourself? So,
So one thing to note about like our technology, like internally, so when you build a plugin in like the IntelliJ ecosystem in Android Studio, all of it is typically going to be written in Kotlin. And so like not only that, like you use like the IntelliJ plugin SDK, all this is like open as like a project in IntelliJ. One thing that we also did is we made it so that this project was buildable and runnable from Android Studio. The idea
hmm.
is that like we want to use this exact same IDE as our users. And so like we'll build on Firebender inside Android Studio. We've hacked like the logger, we've hacked a lot of different things so that like we try and get the exact same experience as our customers and as our users. That way like we can catch problems and like understand whether or not we ourselves like Firebender and if it's good. Yeah, and so like I'll open up like Firebender inside Android Studio and then I'll chat with the Firebender agent and like type in prompts and be like, okay, like a user reported this bug and I'll just paste in all the context in there. Go fix it now, right?
I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy.
No, I know. And it's made it way easier for us to like quickly fix bugs. Like maybe this isn't super obvious to like our users, but like anytime they post on Discord or like
We
post
just
in,
type in
yeah, like
Firebender and
Yeah, they're literally just prompting Firebender directly, and then Firebender is telling us like, hey, this is not like this might not work in your code base, or like here's like some like deeper problem, and then we'll like reach back out to the user and be like, hey, actually, like, I don't know, this might be hard.
I believe
Right.
you. I
Yeah.
believe you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, also, like maybe one thing too, another part of that question was, are we mobile developers, or like, do we have any mobile apps that we're developing in house? So before we started working on Firebender, Mon and I, we tried to build an AI phone. So that was one of our startup pivots. So for like 4 or 5 months or many months, we were building a phone and like literally selling this phone. So the way this
Like
worked is,
the whole phone, or just the
yes,
operating system?
yeah, the whole phone, the whole
The
phone.
whole
Yeah,
phone.
I
Oh,
know. I know it
that's crazy.
sounds, yeah, I know it's crazy, and I know it sounds like kind of insane. The way it worked is we would go to Best Buy, like we would walk to Best Buy, and we would buy Google Pixel 8 phones. And then we'd bring these like Google Pixel 8 phones into our house or into our apartment, and we would root them, and we forked Android, the operating system. So we forked AOSP and Lineage, and we would reinstall our fork of Lineage and AOSP on top of the phone, so on top of the Google Pixel 8s. And
Uh-huh.
inside that fork, what we did was, we ripped out like the standard assistant, which was like Gemini, right? Like we completely gutted Gemini out, partly because like my experience with Gemini, like as an Android user, like just don't like I just didn't like it. It was not very good. Like, you use Gemini at all, like in your phone?
Not that much, actually, to be
Okay.
honest.
Yeah, yeah. Like in the last week, like have you ever pulled up like the Gemini assistant and it's just like,
Only
yeah,
when I type on Google and they
and they
show
force
me
it.
that Gemini prompt, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, no. Yeah. So like I guess, and that's like now, that's today, right? This was we were trying to do this like early 2023. Our so yeah, and so what we did was we ripped out the assistant and we put in like a ChatGPT based assistant. Like we were thinking like, why don't we just use the best frontier models at the time, like, and just put in the phone and give it access to like your calendar, your email, like your text messages, like give it access to like everything in your app, right? Or sorry, in your phone, like across all the apps. And all the apps are already authenticated. And so like we don't have to do this thing where we write like custom APIs for each one, or custom like login flows and auth flows for every single like, different application. Like maybe you have like DoorDash or something, I don't know, or like some random apps just in general, like Amazon, yeah, like we wouldn't have to write our own like, integration or API or auth flow for it, because you're already authenticated inside the phone.
And how hard was it to build that kind of a
So,
phone, that was
yeah. So
modified on the low level?
we actually we sold one phone. So
A single
we
phone.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so that's
yeah.
a good for the start, even though.
Yeah, yeah. So I know. So we sold a phone. What we did is like
To a grandma.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if a grandma would want like an AI phone, but maybe actually,
Yeah.
maybe if you could talk to it, like,
Why not? I mean,
totally. Yeah, why
AI
not? Yeah.
has everything for you, and you just speak to your phone, and there it is.
Yeah, yeah, no, for
No
sure, for sure.
middleman.
No, actually, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. I think like there is a world where like a ton of people who don't want to like tap and like click on things on a phone, like not super
Oh yeah,
technology, right? Like talking to it is totally possible right now. Like the technology
people
is there.
mindsets are changing because of the AI, and I guess that people are becoming a little bit lazy.
Yeah.
Comparing now to 10 years ago, where we had to do a bunch of different things, typing and going forward and backwards multiple times, and now just
Yeah.
people click one tab, open up the microphone and just say something. The app transcribes that into a text and sends it over to the AI, which is, not a
No,
lot
for
of
sure.
work.
Yeah, and I think like, I wonder also like what's happening with programming as well in some sense. Like I don't know if you feel this way, like when you use AI tools, like, do you feel like you're like not like you're
Programming?
losing your yeah, you're not programming? Like, I don't know. Like, what's your experience like? Like, do you feel like you're losing your programming skills or
That's
like
actually a
yeah.
good point of view. And I must say that, to be honest, I use AI in my everyday work, but I never let the AI do everything for me. So
Yeah.
I like what I'm doing. I like my job, writing the code on my own. So I do use Firebender and all other different AI tools, but I still want to spend more of my times writing the code by myself.
Where do you feel like AI is like, okay, so there's like this whole like very like bubble like experience in San Francisco, right? Silicon Valley, as you can imagine, like there's like everyone is like AI circle jerking here, right? Everyone's like, oh,
Oh
AI,
yeah,
AI, AGI, AGI,
everywhere.
right? Yeah, yeah, and I'm kind of wondering like in your perspective, like where do you think AI is still limited like from your experience, like what is AI doing well, and what do you think it's not doing well, where it could like actually improve, and like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that what most developers would want is to automatically translate their UI design into the code. Like the Firebender also has
mm,
that feature, I think, Figma
yeah,
to Jetpack Compose. Am I correct?
yes, yeah. That's something that it's called Composer. But yeah, sorry, continue. Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
tried that feature yet. I have seen that on your website there is the composer, like you've mentioned, but that would be indeed nice. Just to transfer my Figma the design project into Jetpack Compose, and that everything works out of the box without me having to go through it and debug and so on, and just
yeah.
waste more time on it. So I think that will be really huge for everyone. And I'm not sure if there is a tool which is that perfect to do that job. But other than that, I mean, the auto completions in Android Studio, the AI which is now integrated, I mean, it does 90% of work, and only that part is maybe lacking a little bit.
Right.
But I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I think so. This is interesting because a lot of people who are working with UI, Android engineers in particular, like usually you're looking at some Figma mock-up, right, that some designer came up with, and you're trying to convert that design to code, like to Jetpack Compose code. At least like right now is the standard. And
Yeah.
so that it's a very tedious process, right? Like you're trying to figure out the right layouts. You get the layouts down and like you get all the different components in place. Then you're like, okay, also you have to keep in mind like what is kind of the state that each component will have, or like what is the actual like,
Mm-hmm.
calls or whatever, right, that has to be displayed by each of these components. And you're also structuring the components in a way around like the actual like data model itself. And so that's a whole separate thing. And then at the same time, like after you do implement the UI, you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
like very fine details, and like usually a lot of engineers will do this thing called like design review, where they'll give it to a designer and they're like, hey, does this look good? Like, can you sign off on this? And like, can I go and go to bed, go sleep or something? I don't know,
Back
like
and
go have
forth,
fun.
you
Like,
know.
yeah, yeah. There's like a lot of back and forth. Like then the designer's like, actually, no, I think this button is like, 2 pixels off, right? Or like 1 pixel
Oh,
off,
yeah.
and like, yeah, and then you're just like, okay, all right,
But
let me,
do you
yeah.
mean genuinely that now it's coming time where designers are going to be able to develop applications without the actual knowledge of any programming language?
I don't think that designers will be able to necessarily like program an Android app, can actually like good production ready native
I mean,
Android app.
not alone, but with the help of an AI, guiding them through the process.
I think it's possible. Like it's becoming increasingly more and more possible. But I do think that there's so many different like things like in app development that if you don't really have experience in, or like don't understand super well, you could very much like shoot yourself in the foot and like completely mess up your application, right? Like, I mean, we're thinking about like, even the fundamentals like auth, right? Like if you have like an AI vibe code like auth, inside your app, and it does something wrong where like it puts, maybe for some reason it puts your secret key or it puts like some kind of key in the client. Like a designer might not understand the nuances of like why that's
or even
really bad,
the error message.
right?
I mean, if a designer gets one of those Gradle error messages, that's gonna be over.
No, for sure. Like at that point, it's just like, okay, like they're just like, even like a designer opening Android Studio, imagine like they're probably gonna be like, okay, what is going on here?
There is one interesting experiment when we were talking about that. So I had a friend who is not actually a developer, and when he learned about the AI, he told, you know what, I'm gonna just take time to write a couple of prompts and create an application on my own, even though I'm not a developer. And he, typed, what do I need to know? The AI said, download the Android Studio and other couple of things, and he had done that, right? But as soon as he started moving around the Android Studio, it was over. I mean, there were so many options, so many things. It was really hard for a person who didn't know anything about it to become one without properly learning that.
I think it's really sad in some sense that like so Android Studio in my experience has gotten like quite bloated. Like I feel like there's so many different things in Android Studio that like I just don't use. I don't know if that's your experience. Like do you click on like every one of those icons on like the bottom left or like top right of Android Studio? Like
probably not. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a really complex environment, so they must support various different tools for various different use cases, and it's hard to manage and balance between usability and simplicity.
No, for sure, and I think also like there's that like with the IDE with Android Studio itself, and also like the build system as well. Like for a lot of times it can take a long time to build an Android app for like a larger
especially
repo, or like
KMP app.
Yeah, right. And like like there's like all these memes, right, where you have to invalidate caches and refresh, and like things just like start breaking, and just like okay, like I just wanted to make an app, but now I have to become like this like expert in like what the heck is going on in like this build system. Like why is this, how does this caching mechanism even work? Like what is happening here? Right?
Definitely. Yesterday I tried building my app, a quarterly multi-platform app for Android and iOS, and it took around 4 hours build time. I mean,
wow. Okay.
If I'm building only for Android and I'm using MacBook M1, 32 gigs of RAM. I mean, it's pretty decent laptop, but still it took quite long actually to finish the whole build process. But if I'm doing only for Android, it's quite fast. But I think
for sure.
They're probably gonna improve this whole process in the future. I mean, there are a ton of things going on underneath.
It's one of those things where like I've talked with a lot of like senior Android engineers at this point. Some of them have worked at like Airbnb, Zillow, and some of them even work at Anthropic now. Their solution, a lot of these companies based here in SF, for their Android engineers, they've kind of just been like, just buy like much more powerful MacBooks. Like literally, like that is the solution that they've kind of
the only way.
The only way. They're like, okay, all right, we're just gonna get the M4 Max, like 64 gigs of RAM, like whatever. Like we'll just that is like the only way for us to like build the like Airbnb app, right? For example, or like just to like do something very right. And that has been kind of the working solution I've seen for like a lot of Android engineers is like you just buy a really good MacBook, I guess, which is kind of frustrating, but yeah, like that's kind of what people are doing.
My next question, let's get back a little bit on Firebender. So how much does it currently cost to maintain Firebender each month? So you don't have to share the exact amount of money. I know that those information are confidential. However, some general insights into the typical expenses involved in maintaining such an infrastructure would help people better grasp the scale and investment required for such a scale project.
Yeah, for sure. Running LLMs and LLM providers are decently expensive. It's not like like where you host something on Cloud Run or Kubernetes or just whatever, like you get a VM and like that's super cheap, right? It's like only like a couple bucks a month, maybe $100 a month if like for like billions of requests you can easily handle like under $100 a month, right? Hundreds are really expensive. GPUs are very expensive. Like to give you a sense, like getting GPUs on GCP is going to, especially to run our autocomplete model. Our autocomplete model is a very large model. So that costs like, that alone will cost like $20,000 a month, right?
Wow.
To run a cluster of 8 H100s. And you can get cheaper, like you can probably get anywhere from like 10K to 30K. And also there's like the H200s that are coming out as well by NVIDIA, and those are also going to be like, similarly very expensive.
Those are big numbers. I mean,
these are like the high-end GPUs that you can get access to, that like when you hear in the news, like, everyone is like, there's a GPU shortage, like everyone is trying to get H100s, right? Like you're competing with like OpenAI and Anthropic to get H100s, and like also like every startup, like there's a lot of startups here that are trying to get H100s as well, and like all the big players, Microsoft, like they love H1 as well. So I mean, that's also probably why NVIDIA is worth so much. Like probably
definitely.
The most
I mean, everybody is
right
looking for those GPUs everywhere. So
yeah.
Do you have a number of users that the Firebender currently has?
Yeah. At this point,
how many users per month are using your platform?
Yeah. So I think what's interesting is we don't actually track users per month. We track daily users and like weekly users. Like that's like the most important. Mainly because I think most engineers are coding every day, and so like we want to make sure that this tool is actually working on a daily cadence.
Good point.
But I think like if I were to answer your question for monthly users, it'd probably be like upper thousands, like maybe like several thousands of engineers at this point, and then daily users is also several thousands of engineers as well that use this every day. And also when I say like, I think this is really important, when I say like someone who is using Firebender, what I mean is not someone who like signs up on the website or like looks at our landing page or even like just types in hello world to Firebender. Count someone as a user if they actually use code from Firebender in their code base. And I think that is a higher bar. Like that is a much more important bar to like consider someone a user, because it actually means that we're giving some form of value to them and their workflow.
Do you track maybe the time the user has spent daily on Firebender? If so, what's the average or approximate time spent?
For something like Firebender, time isn't necessarily like the most like important thing to track, partly like compared to a consumer application. Like if you were building like Tek-Tok, for example, time is extremely important because you are paid for the amount of time someone looks at your application, right? Especially if it's for entertainment. When I say paid, I mean I'm talking about like advertisers. Advertisers are paying for eyeballs, and so it's extremely important, if you're building TikTok, to grab the attention for hours. Like whether or not that's a good thing, that's a separate conversation. But that is like a very important metric, right? For us, it's more so like we want to make sure that like we're actually adding code. Like we're actually providing useful code as well. So the things that we'll track are more along the lines of like, acceptance rates, right? Like how frequently are people accepting a full agent change from our coding agent? Or how frequently are they accepting a subset of changes from our coding agent? Like these are things that we're monitoring to make sure like, is this like actually working? And are we implementing something that is bad? Like maybe we release a regression. We'll know immediately from like the acceptance rates as well that like people don't like this, right? And so that's another thing. And
that's a good indicator, definitely.
Yeah, it's an indicator of like whether or not this aligns with like a human review. Like we're, as an engineer, is like we all have like very refined taste, especially when it comes to engineering.
True.
And it's like does this actually work? That's the first taste, right? Does this actually run? Does this build? And then also like, is this good code? I will only accept it if like the code looks good to me, right? And so that's why it's really important. And then also throughput. So like we track like lines of code added and deleted like across, and like you can even see your own metrics. Like you can go into your own dashboard and see how many lines of code Firebender is writing for you.
Oh, I didn't know that. I need to try that out.
Yeah. It's a new feature that we just launched, and like you can see also for your entire company, like how many lines of code Firebender is writing for your entire company. For us, it's like probably hundreds of thousands of lines of code. I shared it on I tweet all this stuff because I find it really funny. There's actually a person who, I know. There's actually a person who responded to my tweet and was like, hey, like, these are rookie numbers, right? Like, first of all, like we use Firebender a lot, but a person responded like, hey, these are rookie numbers, and posted a screenshot of theirs, and they had like something like obscene, like 1 million lines of like that Firebender wrote for them in the span of like 90 days or something, which I don't even know how that's possible. Like, I'm like just thinking about this, like what is this guy doing? But I thought that was crazy.
That didn't include all the comments.
yeah. But anyways, so those are the metrics that like we track. I think it's really cool.
So tell us something more about the Y Combinator, what it is, how it works, and the impact that it has had on your personally. So I'm sure that there are people who may not be familiar with it yet.
Yes, Y Combinator or YC is sort of like this. It's this accelerator that gives people $500,000 to build a company, to build a startup. And you can apply to YC. The process is like you have an online application. After a 10-minute, like literally a 10-minute interview, they will give you a decision within a couple days or maybe like a couple weeks of whether or not they'll give you $500,000. Yeah. So that is the process, like nothing else. Application,
and the requirements only whether your app is good enough for them.
Literally the requirements is just like, it's like whether or not your application is good enough.
And is there some kind of an agreement? Do they take a certain percentage from your startup project or?
So the way this works, and this particular information about the deal is online on like the Y Combinator website, but it's I believe it's $125,000 for 7% of your company, and then they give you another $375,000 on an MFN safe. There's some nuances there, but basically what that means is that the $375,000 will be valued at essentially like the next round, or like anytime you raise again, it'll be valued at the next valuation. So that's kind of nice because they don't give a hard value right now for the 375K. And usually in the lifetime of a startup, like your valuation will go up quite a bit, especially in the early stage, right? So the 375K will probably be like, valued at 10 times or 15 times, 20 times what the 125K was valued at.
So how's that process actually works? So you basically create the profile, you write some description about your project, you submit that project, they reach back to you with a proposal, or how's that going?
So it's actually really simple, and they try and strip down as many of like the business BS. Like there's a lot of like business BS that like you shouldn't really need to think about or worry about when you're building a company. They basically like have you fill out an application, which is something like 8 or 10 questions, and very simple. Like one of the questions is, can you describe what your company does in 50 characters, right? Like that's it. Like that's one of the questions, right? And surprisingly, it's very simple. You just like, say exactly like what your revenue is, like how many, like also they don't expect necessarily for you to have a ton of revenue, right? Like this is an early stage company. You might be in the middle of pivoting, right? Like there's a lot of like the expectations are not like, oh, your business is profitable or insanely valuable
So
right now.
is there any kind of a minimum requirement that they expect that you already have in a revenue, like monthly revenue from your app? Is there some kind of a minimum range?
Yeah, when we applied, we were not making any money. Like we had $0 in revenue. In fact, all we had was like an MVP of an idea that we had worked on, and we said that we tried to like sell this to like some other larger companies. I think it was like Quizlet and Chegg at the time. We were trying to sell like some observability product to them. And that was it. Like we were in the middle of like trying to get a pilot going with those companies, but we had $0 in revenue, like no revenue at all. Very, very, honestly, like sort of a shitty MVP, like a very bad MVP, but we were trying to like sell it and like see if it would be useful to anyone.
So at that point of time, did Firebender worked well, or it was still early stage?
It was still very early stage. In fact, we had done a series of really bad pivots. I think we were just trying, at some point, like we were trying to just make something work. We were also losing money. Like, so before we got into YC, we were living off of our own savings, right? And like SF is one of the most expensive places in the world, like in the world to live, right? Like it's extremely expensive. And so like we're trying to cut costs, we're living together, like trying to just make things work. And I think we obviously got really fortunate that we got into YC. You know, $500,000 is a lot of money. Like that is plenty of money to start a company and to run a business and to get to profitability. I think, but yeah. Anyways, so that's
you managed to accomplish 5K from the Y Combinator, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And how long did it take for them to reaffirm your idea and just go with it?
So for us, like, after we had applied and they gave us an interview like maybe a week or 2 weeks after we applied. And so it was 10 minutes. It was extremely nerve-wracking for us because like this, the first time around, I got rejected like in 2023. So in December 2023 or November around that time, I'd applied to YC for that batch. And I'd gotten an interview and they rejected us. And that really sucked because I didn't know what I was doing, and it clearly showed during the interview. And so this time around, like literally a year later in November 2024, that's when it was like my second shot basically to try and get into YC and to get funding. And yeah, it was very nerve-wracking. It was 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes is not long. Like that goes extremely
it's quite
quick.
Short to explain everything.
Yeah, they will cut you off. They expect you to answer questions very precisely. And so we tried our best, and in maybe like a week or 2 weeks after that, they let us know, like actually not even a week, like a couple days, they told us like, hey, this looks great, like would love to fund and work with y'all, so that's it. And like, here's the process for getting the 500 grand. And it took them like maybe a week or 2 weeks for them to wire the money over to our bank accounts, which was really nice.
I mean, it's really an accomplishment, and probably they have also recognized the strength of your idea and the project itself. I mean, it's obviously proven to be a good decision at the end of the day.
They are definitely, it's interesting because they are betting on the founders themselves, and I think that's a little different than a lot of investors when a lot of other investors will think like, is this a big market, right? Is one of my investments, there's
Smart
like
choice.
hundreds of companies that they'll invest in. Is one of them in the basket going to be $1 billion company? And they don't really care. Like, they're just like looking to see if that's like a lot of other VC investors. They're just looking for one of them to make it, to like make up for the rest of the batch or the rest of like companies that have failed or going to fail. And so YC is a little different in the sense that like they very much care about the founders and are betting on the founders, not necessarily the idea. Like they're like saying like, oh, like, how can the founders build quickly? Like, are they technical? Like, can they build an idea very quickly, right? Or do they get bogged down on a lot of details that don't really matter, right? They're trying to just look for people who can move fast. And maybe the idea that you're working on is an expression or like is an expression of whether or not you can build quickly. Like for this last idea, like how long did it take for you to make an MVP? Was it a couple months or did you do it in a couple days? How long did it take for you to then
And how
show
long
someone?
did you take to
For
build an MVP?
for Firebender, actually,
Yeah.
it took like 2 days. So yeah, it took us 2 days
Wow.
to make the initial version of Firebender. This was kind of funny. This was some really fun times. But like Amon and I, because we had such a bad time on the startup journey. Like so many awful things like that we experienced. Like we failed to raise, we had to pivot, we lost all our customers for many different ideas. We had like really poor relationships outside of the startup as well. And like a lot of our friendships were kind of crumbling. And like it was just like it was not the experience that we thought building a startup would be, that we thought it was going to be like an easy time or like I, for some reason, thought that building a startup or building a company was going to be easy and like not
And
too
funny
difficult.
and exciting.
Yeah, and funny and exciting, and it is.
Yeah,
It definitely
there are
is.
two different parts of everything.
Yeah, but it's 100% a roller coaster. Like you're gonna have crazy highs, but you're also gonna have crazy lows that you would not expect, and that's like part of the journey of building a company and trying to make something that's valuable for the world. That's kind of like innate, like that's part of the experience. And so at the time, I was sleeping on Amon's floor, like in his bedroom. We went to Houston, Texas to like trying to like get away from the the SF bubble and like trying to relax and like take a breather because we had been grinding so much, right, for the last
You
2
need
years.
a lot of money in the San Francisco to just barely live a month.
Yeah, and when we had taken a break, we were like, why not? We could just build like we're taking a break from the AI phone that we were grinding on, and we're like, why not? Like every single time we were building, like working on Android Studio, like to build a phone, we were like, why can't we use Cursor? Like, we were early adopters of Cursor in like early 2023, and that's when I first used Cursor, was in early 2023. Why can't we use Cursor in Android Studio? Like, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going back and forth between Android Studio and Cursor. Like, I hate this. And what's funny is we had not seriously thought of that as like an idea to pursue. It wasn't until we had taken a break where we were like, why don't we just like have some fun and work on something that is completely unrelated to our company, like completely separate. Let's just see if we can build like this random like AI coding assistant. I don't know, how hard could it be? And we built like a form of it in a couple days. And we used it and we're like, hey, this is actually not that bad. Like this is
So
quite
basically,
decent.
you've
Yeah.
built something that you wanted to use personally yourself.
Absolutely, yeah, and that we found was
That's great.
actually one of the best ways to get startup ideas or to build a startup is building something that you yourself are going to use every day and is solving a real problem for yourself. And like that is very exciting because it means that you can build something that one person loves and then go from there and maybe find other people that are like you and just give them that same tool and they're probably going to like it as well, where they're like, shoot, like I had that same problem too, like I'm definitely like I'll use this every day and maybe even pay for it as well. And so yeah, that is the early days of like our coding agent when we first started working on it.
Yeah, it's really funny, but many projects or applications that are currently successful actually came out from the same reason. Someone built something that they actually wanted to, and then it grew. Over the years, and people also found that it's really useful, and the good word is spread along. It's really a good idea.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to people who are trying the Y Combinator and trying to push their idea to get some more investment into their project?
It's challenging to give like, it's hard. It's really hard to like give general startup advice. And I caution myself partly because when I was first starting out, I had like listened to so much startup advice. I was like, I'm going to listen to this podcast, or like, I'm also watching a bunch of YC videos, which in itself, like a lot of them are very helpful. And I highly recommend doing that as well. Like, I think it is valuable, but one of the hardest jobs as someone like creating something from nothing, right, is one, you're taking all the risk in the world. You're in this sense like you're quitting your job and with no promise of success, like trying to make something useful for other people. And like that requires learning a lot of skills that you may not have right now, which is completely fine. And also at the same time, it requires a lot of focus. But I think part of that focus is also being able to ignore a lot of advice. Like your job now is like filtering and like ignoring advice from different people. Like everyone, when you start a company, wants to tell you how you're supposed to start a company, right? Like it's like, and it's funny because a lot of people who don't even understand how to build a company from scratch, like, previous colleagues who are software engineers of mine, like they have a lot of opinions on like how you should run a company, but they've never built a company and they've never like quit their job or tried to take on so much risk where they're losing money and they may run out of money and like have to delay retirement or have to also kind of look like an idiot in some sense because you're foregoing hundreds of thousands of dollars that you could have gotten if you had like stayed working at Google, right? Or like at a big tech company. And so a big part of your job as a founder is being able to filter out like a lot of that noise and like essentially like have that determination and continue working even when everyone says like, hey, this is stupid, or like everyone invalidates your ideas, or like I think a big part is like continuing to like put in effort and trying things even when nothing is working. Like that is very normal for many, many years. Your ideas are not going to work. That's fine. What's more important is that you do something about it and like you try and you continue building and trying to make something valuable. Okay. Also, one other thing that I did that I found very helpful was finding other founders. Like wherever you're at, like find other people running companies or running businesses and just like try and be friends with them or try and like ask them for advice.
Connect with
like,
them.
Yeah, connect with them and like try like I don't know, like be close to them or like do things together. Like find where a lot of founders congregate and like, start going to those things regularly. And you'll get a sense of like that you're not really alone in that journey. It can be very lonely, but like when you do find other founders, it's very helpful. Like it's very energizing because I think for me, I realized that like no one has it figured out. Like nobody, every company is a disaster, right? Like we're all trying to just make something work and it's very normal. And so then like it makes it like, it changes the way of thinking of like feeling shame about your company and your situation to like, okay, well, like how do I best use what I'm uniquely good at and my advantages, and like how do I really think about what is the right company for me, like the right startup to build for me, and like how do I actually move faster and like start thinking about fixing things rather than being like ashamed that like you're making no money or like your startup is failing or you're losing customers. Like that is it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, thank you for those words. That was really inspiring. I'm sure that other people will find it helpful too. So I want to ask now, why did you quit your 9-to-5 job and started working on your own idea?
So
what's the main motivator for you?
Yeah, so I was working. So Two Sigma is like it's fintech. It's a hedge fund where what they do is they do like a form of algorithmic trading where basically there's certain signals in the market or just generally like outside in the world, and they try and derive like good trading decisions based off those signals at scale. So like they're managing, I think I don't remember the exact numbers, but at the time they're managing $60 billion, something like that. Yeah, and like it was a fun company to work at. Like very strong engineering team, very strong engineering talent. I think that the difference though is like, well, this kind of gets in like the New York and San Francisco kind of debate a little bit, which I don't know if you're super familiar with, but like a lot of the companies in New York, especially like Two Sigma, a lot of them are focused on like fintech. And not only that, like the people that I had worked with, they're much more risk averse. Like, so a lot of people who go into like working at these like hedge funds and they're trying to maximize like their own compensation, like their total compensation. And And that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not saying that there's anything ethically or morally wrong with trying to make more money through your job. Like, that's actually completely fine. Like, that's more power to you. But I think it was the kind of culture where I realized, like, I didn't really actually like a lot of the conversations were about, okay, how do I make, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like more money? Like, how do I get my TC to $1 million? Like, oh, did you hear this guy who makes $1 million in TC in total compensation? Like, we should like worship this, and like this is amazing. And like, and I think one thing that was quite frustrating for me is like I was thinking about the actual engineering work that we were doing, and like talking to the engineers, and like I felt like there's such a disconnect between building an actual product that's useful, right? Like, and that was a muscle that I really cared about, that I really wanted to build. Like, I was just like very much like, before when I was making games, I loved talking to the people who played my games. And like, even though they were like middle schoolers, it was fine because I was just like, like, I want to improve this game for you. Like, how do I make this game better? Like, more fun. And, they would cuss me out on voice chat. And that's fine. They're like, hey, what the hell is this bug? But, like, that was a lot of fun for me. Like, I was just like, oh, yeah. Like, yeah, I can fix this for you. And, like, seeing people, like interact and play with the game and kind of grow with the game was really interesting to me. But, like, at 2 Sigma, it was kind of like, like, you're just trying to make number go up and like make a lot of money. And like I get like there is something fun about that maybe for a certain set of people. I just didn't really find that fulfilling. And I also realized like I didn't really want to surround myself necessarily also with people who only cared about that. And that was kind of also like the experience that I was seeing. And so after 2 years of that, I realized like, okay, well, I also like I was promoted, very early on, like in a year and a half or so while I was there. And I was grinding. I was working like 60, 70 hours a week, like just trying to get this promotion because I was just like, yeah, like my next goal in life is to be promoted and like get even like to have higher pay or whatever that means. And I'm like a kid. I'm like 22 years old at the time, right? Like I don't know what the purpose of life is. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, I think that this is what I want. And so like at the end of the year, like my manager, who I'm still really good friends with, like my manager is like an amazing person. He is like one of the, I was so lucky to have him as a manager. Anyways, that's a separate story. But, he promoted me. And I like after he communicated that I was going to be paid a lot more, and like I went home and I was just like, I don't give a shit.
What's next?
like this is not fulfilling. Like I did not feel any level of fulfillment. I was just like, weirdly like I don't know what it is about this whole experience, but like I don't like this. Like something about this is wrong to me. Like I just didn't enjoy it, and I feel like I'm not really building anything that I think is really valuable. And so at the same time, I was also working on a lot of side projects.
Oh, really? What kind of side projects did you have?
I was working on a lot of different... So, okay, the first idea I tried to build was I wanted to build an open source version of Roblox. So my idea was like, Roblox is this closed source ecosystem. And at the time when I was making a game, they were taking like 80% or like some crazy amount of money, like 80% of all of my revenue for my game, right? And yeah, and like as a college student, that was really frustrating because like one of my games made like, several thousands of dollars in 1 month, right? And they had taken like, $10K or like $12,000. And like I was like trying to make
frustrating.
money. Yeah,
sure.
It was really frustrating. And like they'll say that they only take 30% or whatever marketing thing. Anyways, it's like part of their core business, right? But in reality, like with the exchange rates, like they really take a lot more. And it's funny because like you would think that the Play Store taking 30% or the App Store taking 30% is obscene. I think so that was like my original motive. I was just like, okay, like what I want to do is I'm going to rebuild all of Roblox, like feature for feature, like on my own. You were
that
like,
persistent.
Yes. And so I was like, I'm gonna build it feature for feature. Like I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna take my revenge and build
literally
my own platform.
Yeah.
How old are you? I haven't asked you that.
So I'm 25 years old. I'm 25 years
25.
old. Maybe
Wow.
I don't know. Okay, maybe that's young. I don't know. I probably aged many years, so maybe I look older than I am. Who knows?
No, no, no.
But yeah, yeah.
But having done so many things and invested so many times in those projects, it's really inspiring to hear your whole story. And I wish you a good luck with the Firebender. I mean, I have
Yeah.
already tried the tool, and from my personal experience, it's really amazing. And I want to keep using it. So while we are at it, do you have some kind of a roadmap for Firebender and any kind of new features that might be available in the soon?
Yeah, one thing so there are a lot of things that we use internally that like we haven't released because we're just like trying to test and make sure it's good. These are things like ranging from like mobile phone IDE where like you can instead of like
Wow.
you can like code on your phone and just
Never
be like
thought about
hey,
it.
yeah, like Firebender, like fix this button, like implement this, and it'll send you an APK file and automatically just load it on your phone, so you can test it to make sure it's good and like kick off an it. Like there are a lot of things that we do internally where we just mess around with just for fun, and that's not released. The other thing too, like okay, so like it's like ranging from that to like more like very immediately valuable things like the composer features that we're working on, which is converting Figma designs to
How's that going?
Yeah, so we have a decent amount of people that are using it right now. The way it works is you just take a Figma URL and you can paste it inside the chat box, and so Firebender will go off, and we've given it tools to interact with Figma directly to basically like get like the node tree and get the styling, get the colors, even get the vector assets, like vector drawable assets. So like it'll convert SVGs to vector drawables and put it in the right place inside your repo. And then it'll try and like implement the actual components themselves and like find the components within the code base. That's something that we do and we're actively working on. We have a ton of like evals.
Does that work in a Compose multi-platform or solely for Android?
So right now, from what I've seen, it works for both. Like people have been able to use it in both Compose multi-platform and regular Jetpack Compose. I will say though, like most of the people I work with, like most of the engineers I've worked with, they just use Jetpack Compose. They don't use CMP yet. It will be like, I do think it is exciting, like what CMP is doing, and it would be really cool if like more people adopted it. Like this idea where you can build like near native experience on iOS as well as like possibly other platforms is, like from Android and Kotlin code, like is very exciting. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think the difficulty there from what I've seen, and this is also a whole other conversation, but it's like, how do you get buy-in within organizations to buy into a new technology like CMP, right? To adopt something.
That stuff.
It's really hard because big companies are more they're much more risk averse. Like they're not interested, like if they can hire more engineers and it might be more inefficient or something to do a certain way, or like use certain technologies that are more inefficient, it doesn't matter because if it works, it works. Like they don't want to risk, refactoring or changing all of that, right?
I mean, there is obviously a lot of job and a lot of time spending refactoring the code base and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. So I understand why people might not immediately switch to new technology.
I do think smaller companies are much more interesting here. Like smaller companies are much more resource constrained and they're more likely to adopt something like this literally because they don't have a choice. If you can write both the native iOS and Android app very quickly and CMP is the way to do it, like they will adopt that, right? And so that's like another way of thinking. But so,
iOS is stable as far as I know for Compose multi-platform, desktop too, Android of course it is, and the web is currently in alpha I think. So they're probably gonna release beta until the end of this year maybe. I heard something about it, and when they do that, it's gonna be the whole circle. I mean, all platforms. With one code base for the UI and for the business logic. I mean, you can basically reduce 4 teams into one.
No,
and
right.
save money and time.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I think there's two. Well, one, I've already seen like a startup like use CMP in production to build an iOS first app, which it kind of blew my mind. Like a startup in San Francisco, right? And so I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like someone had actually used this to build a production app used by many users, and it worked. Like there were no issues with it, and it was a very nice, snappy experience. And I looked at the code, and it was all like in Kotlin, and it was just like, wow, okay, that's very cool. Like did not expect that to happen, right? I think, yeah, and I think also similarly, I think if CMP works well, I mean, that obviously means that like anyone who is an expert in Kotlin or anyone who's an expert in Compose, like instantly, like your value as an engineer now is like doubled, right? Or tripled, because now the code that you write can offer value not just in the Android ecosystem, but it can offer value in the iOS ecosystem as well, or maybe in web, or maybe other platforms. And like, that's really nice. Like that's super valuable if you're an Android engineer. That's something that I would definitely want to rally behind, because it's like that is like a kind of a tailwind that is just like boosting the ecosystem and making things a lot better. I think in terms of our roadmap, just to like wrap up, something that we're really excited about launching very soon, TBD. But we have internally. I've been working on. I've been using a background agent.
Okay.
This was built by my co-founder Aman. So Aman, like he's been coding this like literally every day. He's just like heads down, just coding this background agent. It's the way it works is it's a longer form running agent, so it can call more tools, and it can even call like sub agents, and it'll like go on and try and work longer. And instead of it being like terminal based, or like I really don't like cursors like background agent experience where you have to set up like some cloud container and like then clone your repo, and like there's all kinds of hair around that, because like there's like privacy concerns and all these different things, right? Like, and also the setup time to spin up a Docker container that's a clone of your working environment is just really annoying to set up. It's like non-trivial. Like you have to set up auth, you have to set up all these different things like your environment variables. It's just like especially for Android, it didn't seem right. Our form of background agent is going to be something that runs locally on your machine. And we'll just run in the background, and we'll have like a separate workspace. So like, and also like access to the IDE, and it won't interfere, like it won't interfere with like your actual like main, branch that you're working on in your repo. And so it's a very simple UX. It's going to come out soon. Very excited for it. Yeah.
Can't wait.
I'm interested to see like your feedback as well on this. Like, I think it'll be very exciting. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm following Firebender, and I'll be sure to experiment all new features that you guys bring it up. So I'm ready for it. So with that in mind, I'm gonna conclude this podcast episode. Once again, thank you for joining us here. It was my pleasure. I've enjoyed this talk. I learned a lot of stuff about your past, about your whole journey building a startup, and I'm sure that our viewers will also find it helpful. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, I hope this story was interesting to someone. Yeah, I guess the only thing I'll say is feel free to email me. Feel free to like join our Discord and message me about Firebender if you run into any problems. Would love any feedback on the tool. Thank you so much.
Definitely. I will leave
awesome.
down in the description links to your Discord and the website, so people can thank you again.